gonna do great things. You're gonna do great.
What's up, Internet? Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Fiction Forge, the show where it's our mission to fan the flames of creativity across the internet and through the hearts and minds of all you amazing, awesome people out there.
In this episode, we'll be adding the beautiful craft of papercut light boxes to our artistic arsenal.
We'll be putting together these enchanted scenes with little more than some odds and ends from the hardware store, some cardboard, and most importantly, some creative know-how.
And to acquire this know-how, we'll be taking a look at some of the amazing things people have managed to pull off using this technique.
Then with lessons learned, we'll craft our light boxes using 7 layers to set the scene.
Well, I think it's time to go pick up some tips on how to put light in a box and force its perspective.
So as always, we took a look around online to get a sense of what's worked for people in the past and see what lessons and inspiration we can walk away with.
And as always, there was a staggering amount of awesomeness to be found there, and with it, many tips and tricks we can use in our own projects.
First of all, when selecting subject matter for your scene, keep in mind the layers need room to be secured around the edges inside the box.
So set yourself up for victory by choosing environments that form holding devices easily, like inside the branches of a forest, or in a cave on land, or at sea.
Whether it's clouds over rolling hills, or the buildings in a cityscape, you need something to form the window into your scene.
Then it's time to select some subject matter to breathe life into the environment you've selected.
Just be creative and choose something that looks like it belongs in the scene. Whether it's from one of your favorite series or books, whether it's majestic or spooky, it's totally up to you.
To give you an edge in composing dramatic scenes, keep these simple tricks in mind, because they can help turn great work into astonishingly impressive pieces.
First of all, to maximize the depth in your scenes, remember to make the detail on subsequent layers smaller and smaller, so that the relative scale to higher up layers makes them look very far away. This can also be done with the subject to make their body look like it stretches far into the distance.
Second, remember, even though this style mostly makes use of silhouettes, there are ways of adding secondary detail, like cutting fine elements out of the figures or speckling with pinpricks to give the appearance of texture.
And finally, consider adding some non-paper objects to your scene. It can have some very unexpected and interesting results.
Alright, let's go put a plan together for our project.
First, we'll need to construct a box to contain the frames, spaces, and LED strip.
Then we'll use paper clay to sculpt the border of the box up, followed by a paint job.
We'll also need to make some spaces to hold the frames in place.
With our designs in mind, we can start to draw and then cut out each frame.
Now we just need to place our frames, spaces, and lastly the LEDs into the box.
Alright, so here we have our materials. Some 160 grain project board, a polystyrene sheet for the spaces, a couple of 2x9 planks of pine, a hardboard sheet for the front and back, a bottle of wood glue, some small screws to secure the back in place, some matte white spray paint, and a roll of color changing LED strip with a power source, the control box, and a remote control. We're also using some paper clay to sculpt up the frame, which is an unnecessary but nice touch, and if you would like to make some paper clay for yourself, we have a video on just how to do that. Link in the description below. Some sandpaper will also help us refine the shape of the sculpted frame and make the sides nice and smooth.
And now here are the tools. A jigsaw for cutting the hardboard sheet. A saw and miter box for cutting the planks nice and straight. A drill and a wood bit for setting the screws and making a hole for the cable. A screwdriver. A corner clamp. A glue gun with some glue sticks. A serrated knife for cutting the polystyrene. A ruler and pencil for making precise measurements. A tape measure for when the ruler won't cut it. And finally, we have our cutting implements for cutting out our design. So now we're ready to get busy making our light boxes.
First we'll need to make a box to house the frames, spacers and LEDs. We're using A4 cardstock for the frames, so the inside measurements for the box need to be the same.
The depth of your box will determine the number of layers you'll be able to house comfortably with the LED strip at the back. If each frame is 1 centimeter thick with a spacer, this means our scene will be made up of 7 layers.
Once we've figured out the measurements for our box, we'll go ahead and mark this wood up for our first cut. We'll use a miter box to get nice straight cuts on the bits of wood needed for the box.
We'll also be needing some back covers and borders for the front to stop the frames and spacers from falling out. I think a bit of hardboard will be up to this job.
Once everything is cut out, we can start to assemble our boxes by first sticking the corners together with wood glue and our corner clamp. Once those are dry, stick the right angle pieces together to form the rectangle shape we're after.
And once that's dry, we can stick the components for the front border onto the box, also using a bit of wood glue.
For the back we're going to use screws. So once again we measure and mark where we want them to go, and then we'll drill some holes into the box.
We also need to drill a large hole in the back cover for the LED's power cord to go through.
We want the border of the box to reflect the scene inside, so we're going to use a bit of paper clay to sculpt up the border.
Once the paper clay is thoroughly dry, we can refine the shape a bit and smooth the sides with some sandpaper of various grains.
Now our boxes are ready for a coat of white spray paint. Let's also give the inside of the back cover a coat so it reflects the light better.
Alright, so now our boxes are ready to house our scenes, so let's move on to building the spacers and then designing and etching out our frames.
Most people use foam board for their spacers, but we chose to go with polystyrene because it was less than half the price.
Once we have our measurements marked up, we can cut the sheet into strips. And then those strips can be cut into the carefully measured segments that will form our spacers.
Now that we have enough of the 2 different lengths we will need, we can begin to stick them all together using a bit of hot glue.
Great! With all our spacers done, we can move on to the creative part of this project.
You can design your frames on a computer and then print them out and trace them onto your cardboard. But we're just going to wing it with a pencil to show you that you can still get a good result even if you aren't tech savvy.
What we like to do is go frame by frame, drawing the details and then etching them out with a sharp blade so that the following frame can be drawn through the holes you just cut.
This ensures that the best features of your current frame won't be covered up by the elements of the previous frame.
This can be a lot of work and quite time consuming, so brace yourself if you're thinking of giving it a go.
But I'm sure we can all agree that the results are well worth the time and effort.
Finally, we just need to stick the LED strip in, pull the power cord through the hole, and then screw the back cover on.
I think it's time to plug them in and see how they look.
And just before we go check out our final result, if you're enjoying the show, please consider liking and subscribing. You would be doing us a massive favor. And don't forget to hit the bell icon to turn notifications on. Totally chuffed with this result. These paper cut light boxes are mesmerizing little things and are sure to catch the eye and stir the imagination.
The color changing LEDs are a great addition and really bring the design to life. They definitely would make for fantastic nightlight.
They do take some time and effort to make, but aren't too complicated, and I think you'll agree the results are absolutely worth it.
And there we have it. We really hope that you're inspired to try your hand at making one of these beautiful works of art for yourself. If you're tired of your favorite creators' content being stifled by the need for advertisers, then head over to Patreon and give people who are passionate about their weirdness a much needed helping hand.
If you enjoy our content, you feel you get value from it, and you want to get involved with building the community from the ground up, then join us and have your say in what we make and where the channel goes in the future by clicking over to our Patreon page now.
Contribute whatever you can per video and you'll be helping to build a world where creatives need not be caged in cubicles or tethered to view counts.
Either way, you are always welcome here.
Sheesh, can you believe we thought these things would only take a couple of days to make?
Well, in theory it seems simple enough, but holy cow, who knew what a mission it was gonna be to cut out all that stuff?
I know, right? My finger callus from school days has been revived. It definitely gives you more respect for the people that do this on the reg.
Yeah, veterans must have a glorious tumor-like finger callus, or at least a laser cutter of some sort.
You're probably right. The effort aside though, these things got mad potential. Next crack we should get really weird with it.
Yeah, we could try putting some different materials in there. Maybe try using a black light in the back.
Nice. Sounds like a plan.
Wizards only, fools. Keep it tight.